Get this thing going. I'd like to first welcome everybody. It's kind of weird doing it between people there and there, but whistle or something. You got a whistle? All right, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Seth and I's webinar. This is how to improve your approach to tournament practice. And I'm FLW Tour Pro Josh Douglas. This is my co-host, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro, Seth Feider. And we got an awesome guest today, FLW Tour Pro, Carl Jacobson. What's up, Carl?
Doing good. Good to be here.
We're going to get right into it. For those that are viewing, we got kind of a unique thing this time. This is the first time we're doing our webinar live from Thorn Brothers in Blaine, Minnesota. So we got a live audience. We also have hundreds of people online right now that are on this thing. For those that are online, we're going to try to do, we love answering questions. We're going to answer a bunch of them again tonight for both people live and people on viewing online. To do that, there's a chat feature. Please feel free to use the chat feature, but hold the Q&A. There's a Q&A button. You can see it here in the by the arrow. That Q&A is how we look. That's what we're going to look back to look for questions online, try to answer as many as we possibly can. Computer users, that's where the Q&A is up here. Smartphone users, this might vary for everybody. You get the gist. I guess iPad users too. All right, big congratulations to Jesse Ewing. Won the Featherwick Tackle Warehouse giveaway from our last webinar, $300. He's been paid up for Tackle Warehouse. Thank you very much. And of course, like always, we have some awesome giveaways to give away. For those that are attending online, we'll pick names at random and announce them on our next webinar, but we have a Navionics card, map card, a Hydrawave H2 from TH Marine, a Sims Challenger Pro Suit from Sims, and the new Amphibia Eclipses.
Yeah, been wearing these for all this year, and they've just come out available now, and they are the deal.
I think we all three run Amphibias, so yeah, they're definitely the glass to use. And for our people here in the audience, we got some awesome giveaways from Super Clean. Excelsior Brewing hooked up the crowd with some beer, so I think everyone's happy with that. We got tackle packages from Outcast, Rapala, Biospawn, and Biovex. And then, of course, we're going to give away a Daiwa rod and reel to somebody else in the audience as well. All right, every seminar we do and stuff like this, we always talk about preparation and opportunity. Started all my personal seminars with this screenshot right here, and it just shows that preparation is the key to success out on the water. Not a whole heck of a lot of luck involved, but you can get lucky by having good preparation, I guess. And you can see just a screenshot doing your homework, and you find a load of bass like them right there. Tools for pre-practice. This one's all about practice and how we manage our time on the water. We all do some level of pre-practice before we even show up to that body of water, probably as soon as the tournament schedule is announced. Navionics sponsors this webinar. They do a really awesome deal for everybody through their chart viewer, which was formerly known as the web app. You can view every single one of their lake maps, maybe even globally, but for sure nationally in the US and Canada. And you can, I mean, it's the same map you'd put in your card. It's just on your computer, so you can sit there and do your homework. Yeah, we utilize that absolutely all the time when we're out there. You can see just the different kind of mapping and stuff. Then you got the mobile app from Navionics. I use that a bunch. That you can actually save waypoints on. It's a mobile app. You can get it for an iPad or iPhone or Android, whatever it is that you're running. You guys all use that, I assume. Yeah. You download the maps you want. You can do regions with that. Just like their cards, you can do individual lakes, however you want to download it. You just have to make sure to download. So if you go to Canada or something like that and you don't have cell service there, that's fine. You just have to download the map there because the GPS will work, but you just have to make sure you download that map. So if you're going to go to Canada or something up here, just download the map first. It'll be on your phone and you have a GPS for while you're up there, especially if you're renting guide boats, stuff like that.
Good question?
No, I was just going to say make sure you do it before you go.
Yeah.
You're not going to have
100%. Yeah. Definitely want to do it before you get there. Through that app, though, you can also save waypoints. You can transfer waypoints, share waypoints to your friends, anyone you work with, put them on your graph, however you want to do that. But you can see right here, they give you the coordinates to whatever it is that you're looking at. Outside of that, we use the Weather Channel. We use it a bunch.
Yeah, that's gonna be more once we get into the actual tournament.
Kind of tracking it. Sometimes I like to watch it a little bit in advance just to see if they're potential this time of year, if they're spawning. Weather
Yeah, I'm a big, everything
like
for me, pre-practice wise really is based on weather, especially temperature. I want to know what the weather has been like leading up. I want to know, you can get apps where it'll actually give you temperatures all the way for a month, what has been. So, I'm based in Dallas and we're going to fish. I'm going to fish up here and I haven't been keeping track of the weather. I want to know, has it been snowing up here for the last week or has it been warm or what? And those pre-temperatures are really important, knowing what the last month of the temperatures have been, whether a wave of fish has moved up to spawn or whether they're really pre-spawn and held back or whatever. So that weather, I think, dictates everything for me. So I'm keeping a really close eye on that right up to the tournament, so I know, how important that.
You can get a pretty good idea of water temp just by looking at what's happened the last 2 weeks going into a body of water.
Definitely. And for those that for those that figured it out now, Carl's from Australia.
Yeah.
So but he came over here with the fishing dream and has made it come true. So he's obviously from Australia.
The pre-practice study on the master at it because I need to get every bit of information I can before I head to a lake that I've never seen before in a country that I've never been to.
He's still trying to figure out the climate, what it's like in Minnesota. Google Earth's got to be a big one for everybody. I know it definitely is for me.
Huge for me, especially on river systems. Google Earth, I use that more than my actual map cards. Finding backwaters, sand drops, stuff like that. You can see all that off Google Earth. Not so much. I don't use as much on natural lakes and stuff, but anytime you go to a super shallow river system, you can almost navigate a lot of stuff better off. Provided there's semi-clear water off of your Google Earth versus unmapped areas of a river.
And you can also go back in time with that. And like you said, you can find navigable water, clear water is a big one. If you want dirty water, if you want clear water, you can tell by Google Earth a lot of times looking back over the years, certain times of year, especially on river systems, maybe one stream just is always dirty. Every time you look at it, that's your dirty water. One area is always clean.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to, if you go on your mapping app where you use your driver's map to get which way you want to go. If you go onto satellite there, it can give you older images. Like the Google could be up to date, but other satellite images might give you old shots of when the water was super low or whether it was super high. And I'll often go through a couple of those and, just like a Beaver or any of those lakes, I've seen the older shots that gives you, the structure and your little creek beds or rock piles or something that you can find now that the water's high, but you'll get your older screenshots from a Google that'll show you those rock piles that were out of the water when the water was low, drawn lows. Couple little things like that always help, but Google Earth really for a fisherman is everything. That's a must.
And it's nice also, you can also look at it from your phone or I know with the Navionics cards, certain cards you can overlay satellite imagery. And one thing's nice, if I get on, let's say a laydown pattern, I'm flipping laydowns, generally you're not going to have laydowns around people's houses. They tend to keep that stuff cleaned out and clear. So if I start getting on a good laydown bite, I might look to Google Earth and look for some areas that are just more woods, more stretched out where they're not manicuring the shoreline nearly as much. So an awesome tool to get to know the body of water before you've ever been there, for sure. Lake level and current information. This would be like your Corps engineers, big time deal, river systems, any reservoirs, stuff like that.
Up here, our natural lakes, they go up and down a foot. That's a lot. But a lot of the places we go, river systems, reservoirs, a lot of those places will fluctuate 20, 30, 40 feet even. So that's always good to keep an eye on. If the water's rising, if it's falling, what's going on.
I think Beaver, when we were at Beaver, fluctuated 6 or 8 feet in the course of the first day of the tournament to the last day. So trying to keep track of that rain coming in and what it's going to do. I can remember in practice seeing fish on beds, and that just was irrelevant by the time the tournament came because I couldn't see them no more. I didn't know where they were.
And with the TVA lakes, it's more important to keep an eye on those current levels actually during the tournament because you want to know when they're going to draw water, and you want to look at both ends of the dam. You want to look at whether they're releasing water or they're letting water in. Because if they're stopping it at one end, the water's going to hold up and it's not going to be very good at the end that they're stopping it. And it's going to be way better at the end that they're letting it in. But if they're letting it out both ends, you're going to have current running right through the whole system. So, and then, you know, that there'll be times that they'll release that water. So during a tournament on a TVA lake, you want to know exactly, you could leave 10 minutes prior to them opening those gates or drawing water, and that's when it's go time. So you need to know those exact times if you're going to fish that current. But if they're going to open both gates, the whole lake can come on fire in that little time, because the whole lake will draw current.
Yeah, you know, when they start pulling current on a TVA lake, if anyone's ever been there before, Gunnersville, Kentucky, Chickamauga, they start pulling current, you get to your best stuff ASAP, because those fish are all so current orientated. Pre-practice and information period. So pre-practice, we're talking, you know, and everyone varies what level tournaments to even that they're fishing. Pre-practice to us is usually before the cutoff deadline. So that could be, you know, a couple weeks to a couple months, whenever it is that we show up there. That's what we're going to concentrate on. We're going to concentrate practice on 3 days before the tournament. So whether you're fishing for a local BFL or a club tournament or something like that, you may only have a day or two on the water. Right before the tournament, that would be your practice period. If you're pre-practicing, anything before 3 days before the tournament, and the reason why is that is good for looking around, but patterns can change so fast in a day, let alone 3 days. So pre-practice and information. Let's start one at a time. Seth, what's your deal with them both?
For me, the only places I go and actually pre-practice are typically river systems where navigation's an issue. I like to learn how to run everything and just navigate the water system. I don't typically get a ton of like information from people. For me personally, it just doesn't work out. You know, guys can tell you go to this creek, throw this bait, and you go there and it doesn't translate for me. Some people it does. So I don't like to get a lot of information about where the fish are. I do like to go and, you know, figure out where I can run and how to get in and out of every place I go to. But like I said, pre-practice for me is going to be pretty much on like expansive river systems, places with a lot of shallow water and stumps, and just trying to get around. Not so much doing a lot of fishing at all.
Yep, I agree with that. Pre-practice, if I can do it, I'm going to go. A lot of times I won't even fish. It'll be on my way to another tournament or something. I'll stop in there for a day or two. I mean, just simple things. Where's the main boat ramp where you're taking out of? I mean, that's just stuff when you only have a couple days you're trying to figure out. It's nice to know where that is. You can also use it as an opportunity to check out lodging and stuff like that. But just to see the lake, see what it is you're working with. But I've tried the deal, you know, try fishing and then or information, both of them. I don't mind information. For me is kind of tricky because I've had like my worst tournament in history and I got a lot of information. At the same time, my best one, I didn't get none. So it's one of those. But with that being said, it's just different. You can't give me waypoint and tell me to go to the spot. It never works for me. It doesn't work. It's different if I can go there pre-practice and I got a friend that maybe lives in the region and I can actually go fish with them. I will be a better angler when I leave there. I will learn something from that person. If we could all jump in the boat with each other, we will all become better anglers. If there's something everyone in this room's got that can offer me, I will learn something from you. So if that's kind of one thing on the information, it depends. It's usually a good friend or something like that that's going to do that. Outside of that, I just do a little bit of internet research, what the weights are going to be and stuff like that, and go from there.
That, and I think like spending a lot of time fishing a month before actually hurts you.
For sure, chasing ghosts.
If you go out there fishing for a few days, you're gonna catch some fish somewhere at some point. And then you know, when we go back, we only get 3 days to practice, so you end up wasting your whole first day checking spots where you caught them a month ago. And too much changes in a month, too much changes in a few days for it really to be relevant in fishing stuff.
And sometimes you just got to use your own nose, not somebody else's. You know, use your own nose, sniff them out.
Yeah, I think, for me, the information over the last 7 years, it just hasn't worked for me. The big one, just like Seth said, is navigating, like especially the Mississippi River, something like this, coming up and getting someone to run you. A couple of years ago, I had a young kid jump in the boat. I said, I don't want to know where a fish gets caught. I don't want you to point, say, flip there, fish that. I just want to know how to get from this pool into that pool and run everything, and then I can check it out. And that, to me, was that was a massive help, because me trying to navigate that system myself would have taken forever. But the second someone says you can catch a fish there, or flip this or use that, you just can't get that out of your mind. And same as when you go fishing and you catch some fish, you're going to end up going back there and fishing. And these fish change by the hour, let alone the day and the week and the months leading up. So it's really just a confidence thing. I think going there, seeing the place, and then being able to have a good game plan and being confident with running everywhere, that's the main thing I want to be able to do leading into a 3-day practice.
Then 3 days go by fast.
Yeah.
Official practice. 3 days prior to the tournament, a day, 2, whatever it is that you got time on the water before your tournament. That's what we're talking about now, actual official practice. For me, I really like to have all my T's crossed, I's dotted, all that stuff ready and rock and roll right before the tournament. It just helps me get ready to go for those official days of practice. I want my rods rigged to the best that they can be and ready to go, so I ain't spending too much time trying to screw around. Pre-practice is good for that. I think just ample time in the garage, getting the rig ready. It's got to be at least a full day before you leave town, getting everything
Pretty
ready
close,
and
yeah,
hit the road.
For me, I'm in the boat. I'm in the boat for days, or it could take a week really of planning, getting your boat all ready. But tackle, I want everything 100%. So when I hit the water, I'm not wasting any time. Looking at your chips or looking at everything. I know where I'm kind of going to run, what area of the lake I'm going to fish, and you just don't have that sort of time to waste. But in that official practice, I think that early morning, getting up, making sure you're on the water when you can be, half an hour before official daylight, and because that first little 2-hour bracket is a time when you're going to be fishing during the tournament hours, and that's the time when the fish are really truly biting usually, and they're going to show themselves. So always make sure I'm on the water at almost dark in that first 2-hour period. Make sure you're fishing somewhere where you think they're going to show themselves, because it's a really important, I think that first 2 hours is important in any tournament.
I got a question for you guys. Official practice, okay? You get literally sun up to sundown, I believe. Don't quote me. I think in the FLW too, you can practice through the night or through parts
I think
of the
they've
night.
changed it now.
Yeah, they changed it now. They used to let them sit there and stare, but you can see your screens really good at dark. So sometimes that's a good thing. But you stay out there until dark?
I go bell to bell. We're half hour before sunrise, half hour after, basically
Yep.
shooting hours.
I have done it for the last 6 years plus, but I'm starting to, as it gets into the summer events, like Sinclair and up here, I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning, getting on the water at 4:30, and then I'd be off at 9:30 at night, go and fuel the boat up, rig some tackle, put it away, try and eat. I was getting 3-4 hours of sleep a night if I was lucky, and I was starting to notice that was affecting me during the tournament. You can't be at your best. Some guys can. There's plenty of guys that can do it. But for me, I found that I was finding fish at 8 o'clock at night that were biting, and it had nothing to do with what was actually going to be in the tournament. And I would end up running to them, and they weren't even there. So I have backed off that a little bit. I prefer to I'm on the water at dark no matter what, but I prefer to get off. If it means getting off just a couple hours early and you do 12-hour days, that's a long day. Get off and get organised, like sit on a boat and re-rig, get a game plan for the next day, rather than being rushed back and trying to rig and get your boat put away and just trying to get some sleep. That is starting to flow into my fishing, and it's helped me a lot over the last year and a half, I think.
I'm definitely out there right away in the morning. At the same time, I'm generally out there until dark. With that said, though, sometimes if I'm having a really good practice, it's getting towards the end of the practice. Now there's other things I want to worry about too, like getting all my rods rigged, getting my boat ready, making sure everything's good. So if I feel like I've dialed in a few different patterns that I got going, I feel like it's good, then I'll probably pull up. But if I ain't getting bit, then I probably struggle. I mean, whatever.
What you found and how good you feel about it.
There is something to be said about, fish biting at night. Maybe you get on something that they bite there at night. That could end up being a ghost fish to you in the tournament. But if I haven't got 2 bites all day, I'll take 4 a half hour before the before
And it all depends where you're at. Like Oneida, those fish just show themselves big time in like the last hour of light. So I'll stay out there because it looks like a ghost town, and then you'll be in an area and it'll just come to life, and you'll know like, okay, there's a lot of big smallmouth and largemouth in this area, and then you can concentrate on it the next day trying to catch them during tournament hours.
And we'll say one thing that's helped. I know Carl and I, we lodge in a Lance camper right there at the ramp where we take off. That has helped save hours off my day. I can tell you, because the rat race of getting out and trying to get back to your hotel, that was $60. And trying to jockey for position where some guys get off and their boats are already there. You try to stay out late, you can, but to be right there on the water and stuff like that, I mean, that has definitely helped at least be able to get to bed a little bit, not midnight every night, trying to get everything going.
I think it's just a little bit like hunting. I'm sure there's plenty of hunters in here. You wouldn't go elk hunting and stay in the middle of town and then the next day drive. You know, it doesn't kind of, in the rut or whatever, like it doesn't kind of work. You want to stay in the hills of where you're hunting and see the environment, what's going on. And being at a camp near the lake, you can see what's happening, the wind changes, storms, rain, wind direction, whether it cools off. And you kind of it's just nice being able to stay near the lake. You get adapted to the conditions and you just fish. It just makes you a better fisherman, I think.
Let's start breaking down some fisheries, should we? First, we're going to talk about reservoirs. I believe our next slide's on natural lakes. Reservoirs. Feider, lead us out.
Yeah. I brought this mat up. I just use a cursor on here. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be like a ton of variables in this, but just in general, when we go to these bodies of water, they're massive. I mean, hundreds of thousands of acres you have to break down in a couple of days. I'm typically not going to fish every inch of shoreline going around these pockets in the creeks. Let's say it's spring. You know, you got a bunch of creek arms coming off the main river channel. There's stuff all over in here you can fish. I'm not going to sit down and fish every single inch of every pocket. There's no way you can do that in 2.5 days. So a pattern is something that definitely plays, especially when you get on the reservoirs. Our natural lakes are kind of more spot fishing lakes. But, you know, let's say I'm running in here. Let's say I've caught some fish on some secondary points or points of some sort. I'm just going to come into these creeks and fish like right here is a really obvious secondary point. There's another one right in here. I'm not going to go, like I said, I'm not going to go in and fish every inch of the back of the pocket. I'll run into a creek. I'll fish a point or two, fish a back of a pocket or two, and then get out of there. I'm not, you don't have the time to fish every single inch of shoreline. And I'll run down and, you know, maybe do the same thing in the next creek. And if I don't get a bite, you know, I might run a few miles up the lake and then try another couple creeks. There's just so much water to cover in a couple days. You're not going to be able to touch it all. One thing with practice, everybody wants to like get bit and you know, find the winning fish and all that. But a lot of the places we go to, you don't get a lot of bites at, and you know, I'm fine with just getting 2-3 bites a day in practice. I'm not looking to go and win the tournament in practice. So, you know, a lot of people, they want to get a bite and or catch a few and then shake a bunch off, and that's something I've never really done. I'm just gonna, especially places where it's fishing tough. If I pull into a creek or a bay on a lake, whatever, I get a bite, I'm just gonna leave. I'm not gonna go through there and shake off 20 other fish. I don't want them to see my bait. I want them as dumb as I can get them when I get there. I mean, any fish you shake off is going to think twice about eating the same bait and you throw it back at them, no doubt about it. So I'd rather just not even be there, not even show them anything. Where I see a lot of people make mistakes is they go in there and, you know, they catch a couple, they're nice ones, and they work all the way through there and they want to, you know exactly where every fish is, shake off a fish under that dock, shake a fish off on that point, shake a fish off out of that brush pile. Where, to me, that's what I'm going to do tournament day. You know, I just need a few bites to tell me what areas I need to be in. And then tournament day, I got 8 hours. I can go fish. You know, if I only get bit in 2 or 3 creeks on a whole reservoir, I can spend my whole tournament in those couple creeks. And another thing I noticed with like going in and shaking fish off is like you get the preconceived notion like that's where he lives. Like say you go up to a lay down, you pitch your jig and one eats it, like that's where he is. you know, in tournament day, what are you going to do? You're going to run right back to that lay down, pitch your jig, and they're not going to bite, and then nothing. But little do you know, he's just sitting on the point right down the corner, where if you go in there and practice and you just get a, you know, bite or two in the creek, you're going to fish everything in there in the tournament, rather than, you know, get your heart set on, it's basically preconceived notions. You're going to get your heart set on, you know, bites that you had in practice. And it's at the end of the day, it's a liquid world. It's changing constantly. Fish are never going to sit in the exact same place at any given time. So I just like to get a feel. I like to run the whole lake when I go there. I'm going to go all the way up the river. I'm going to fish down by the dam. I'm just going to fish really obvious stuff, a lot of community stuff. Bridges, the most obvious point in the whole place. You know, the most obvious pocket in the whole deal. Go in there, see if I can get a bite or whatever. And then, you know, I'm eliminating areas too. If I pull into a few creeks and I fish the most obvious stuff and I don't get a bite, I'm probably not going to go back there. You know, if I can pull up on some community stuff and get some bites, or obvious stuff, I should say, and get some bites, and I know there's some fish in that creek or that area of the lake, and, you know, tournament day is really the day to figure them out. You don't want to be the guy that wins practice, because the guy that wins practice never wins the tournament, ever.
And one thing too with the reservoir fishing in particular, I'm definitely searching out patterns on a reservoir. Natural lakes can be patterns for sure too, but they can also be very spot orientated. And I mean, like that's a hammer hole right there, you know, and that's a spot. The reservoirs, I try to find 3 or 4 different patterns that are working for me. I learned the hard way in my career. I jumped into it, and I was one that tried to fish everything in practice. You just can't do it. It's impossible. And when you do it, it's
you don't fish anything properly.
Nothing.
You fish everything half-hearted, and then you're jumping over areas that could be really good because you're trying to move through or cover too much ground.
Yep. And areas that I've hunkered down in sometimes, and just I know there's fish there. I just got to catch them. That's what I do. I catch fish. I'm good at that. I just got to hunker in that area and figure out what they're doing that day, because it'll change. I've had it change right in the middle of the day on me. Just different, because you get the best of all worlds. You know, you get to fish what's going on right now. You know, the sun comes out this time of year. I'm going to go bed fishing. You know, it's windy and it's blowing hard. Well, I'm going to go and get on some wind-blown points, something like that. I'm going to fish the conditions, not try to force the bite that I had in practice. And definitely getting around those different areas and moving water. And one thing about these reservoirs, they're big. A lot of times they're big. A guy from Minnesota took me a while to dial that in. And now fishing the tour and only having 3 days to practice, I'm still learning how to condense a lake into 3 days. So one thing I did is I used to come with, like, let's say my first day of practice, I fished down by the dam and I got one bite. I'm not afraid of that. That eliminates water. Okay? That starts telling me I'm either lost or I'm eliminating water. But either way, it ain't working for me. And I need to make something work for me. So now I'm going to go run up the river and try something. At the same time, let's say I have a really good day down by the dam, okay? I might not necessarily go all the way up the river the next day. I want my dots to start connecting to some degree. I've had that on these big lakes where next thing you know, I had 3 days of practice, and I look at my graph and I'm like, wow, I got really good water 2 hours that way, really good water 2 hours that way. I can't fish at all. So I want to start figuring out my flight path. Now, I know I caught 2 4-pounders there doing this. I'm almost positive I'm going to go there to fish. I want to create a flight path from takeoff to there and start making some areas that I can hit in between. When I do that, I seem to be able to have a lot more success, and I don't run thin out on the water.
I think that some of the worst things that happened to me, like even this year, is have phenomenal practices. And it's just got me too locked in. Cumberland, like some of the lakes, you've got to, weather is everything. You've got to be watching that weather and looking at what's coming up. And Cumberland for us, Reservoir, this year, it was 85, it was 70 all week, 85 degrees on the day off on Wednesday, and we woke up to 28 degrees and blowing 30 and pouring rain. And I went straight to the fish that were biting for me where I thought I was going to catch them, and guys had terrible practices, but the wind blew, got cloudy, and they went down the bank with a jerk bait and just smoked them in a spinnerbait. It was so easy. It was so easily done. And all I had to do was like bail on these. You got to be ready to drop everything and fish the conditions, because when it changes on you, you got to say, okay, I'll leave them for now and go and do what the conditions are telling me to do. And then I can come back to my fish. And I've just made that mistake of like trying to push something that's worked for me so well. But in my gut, I'm like, this isn't a deal. It's windy and cloudy. They're going to be biting in the clear water and the open. I need to go and do that. And the Elite Series guys and the top FLW guys, that's what they do. They could be catching bedfish solely, and then that temperature thing comes in and they'll pick up a lure or a jerkbait that they've never used in the last 3 days and catch 15, 18 pounds on it or whatever. And they'll be like, that's what the conditions told them to do. The fish, these bass, compared to anything else that I've ever caught in the world, they tell you so quickly when you're doing something right or when you're doing something wrong. That's the coolest thing about a largemouth and a smallmouth bass. It's like, if it's not happening, they're telling you you're doing the wrong thing. And when you do it right, it is so easy. It's like you just think, why isn't everyone just smashing? It's so easy because you're just giving them what they want. But that's why you always just got to be like, if you're pushing something and it's not working, just be ready to change. And the best guys at the top of their game are the fastest ones to change. They're the quickest decision makers. They're the fastest at realizing that it's not happening and being ready to adjust.
I promise you, every one of my best finishes I've ever had, at some point in that tournament, I did something that I hadn't practiced, hadn't done. I changed. Something happened. It's one of the hardest things to do. I swear it is. Everything tells you not to do it, but your gut. And that's what you got. I can't tell you how many times if your gut tells you something, do it. I mean, really seriously do it. And for a guy that's got ADD, that's horrible. My gut tells me to do all kinds of things throughout the day. So definitely, guys, that's just something, though. It's you got there for a reason. You got to trust yourself when you're on the water and go with that, because the fish will reward you for it when you do it.
Going back to having a good practice and why that is bad sometimes is, for me, I look back at my top 12s in Elite Series and a good finish this year on FLW and in the Opens. It's always been where I've had a really tough practice, but I found one little deal, and I'm like, all my cards were down on that one deal. I'm like, that has to work. So I've really concentrated on that and put all my efforts into a small area when the conditions have stayed the same, and then I've developed a really good pattern from that. But when you have a good practice and you catch fish all over the place, the second you're making a cast here and they're not biting, you're thinking about the other area where you got bit somewhere else, and then you go there, and then you go next minute you're jumping all over the place. And Potomac River last year, Hackney and Christie, they stayed in the one area for 4 days straight. They just never moved. They just had this little 50-yard stretch, and I found those stretches and I fished them, but I blew through there and I was gone. Like, I caught a big one right now, and I was thinking about another place wwhere I was catching them on a chatterbait when the tide was right, and I just had to hunker down. So my strengths are when I just find a little deal and I can pick it apart. And that, I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is just running too much and not hunkering down on, because there's just fish everywhere in a lot of these lakes. You just got to figure out how to get them to bite.
And I think that's key to a good tournament angler too, is that's the hardest part of what we do. We got to decide when to go, when to stay. It's hard. It's really hard. You know, when we're watching that clock tick, 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 and you got one bass in the live well, and you got to make a decision. At great events, all of us have staying at great events going. But one thing I will promise you is when the big engine's running, you are not catching bass. So keep that in mind. You know, the more time, the more opportunities you give yourself to keep a lure in the water, generally the more bass you're going to put in the boat. Natural lakes. Feider?
Okay, this Minnetonka, it's gonna.
Feider's a good one to talk about, Minnetonka.
Ain't gonna be nothing real specific, but just when you go to just when you go to like a natural lake, this is a chain of lakes. A lot of the ones we have tournaments on up here are. I definitely want to see every single one of them in practice, even if I don't even make a cast in them. A lot of these chains of lakes, they'll vary greatly in water color and vegetation density, but they're really diverse, and you can use that to your advantage. You know, whatever you're at these kinds of places, I like to fish my strengths. If you want to fish boat docks, you can. If you want to fish out deep, you can. If you want to fish in 4 inches of water with a frog, you can. So I like to make a lap through every single bay on, I mean, this is Minnetonka, but I mean, practice for, let's say, a Denny's or something. I'm going to make a lap through every single bay, see what's going on with watercolor, see what's going on with what the grass is growing, and just kind of pick the area that fits my style the best. And, if you like throwing a drop shot and light line or something, you're going to want to look for the clear water and the deeper grass. And, if you like flipping a jig in a foot of water, you're going to go to the dirty water and do that. But I'm just getting a feel for the entire lake is I feel pretty key. If you only go and practice, a little section of the lake, you might miss the boat on something that's really going on. And like I said, I like to see everything in practice and then kind of worry about catching them more in the tournament. But Minnetonka is kind of a tough one. It's it's a really spot oriented lake. Waypoints from like 10 years ago are still good.
Stuff.
He likes to see every square foot of
Yeah.
area. No.
No, you can't do that on here. But
A lake like Minnetonka, 15,000 acres, something like that.
yeah, fish is big though.
But for instance, if you stayed on the east side for your 2 days of practice and then you got to scales and you had 12 pounds and people bring 20 and they're like, we fished the dirty water side, you'd never even know that there was one because you didn't look around. And with that being said, and this goes on different levels, I agree. I definitely try to see as much water as I can. I burn up a lot of boat gas. For us, we didn't spend $5,000 to get in that tournament to worry about $100 in gas. We want to see it. But let me tell you something. We also have where we got pre-practice where we can't, we're off limits. We can't be physically on the water. Driving around a lake, looking around, going over little bridges and just looking, you see with your eyes, what it is that you guys want to fish. You know what attracts you, what looks good. You can learn so much just by driving around a lake and getting to know. You'll learn the water clarity, what it's like up river, down river, all that stuff. What the docks look like. I remember Randy Howell talking about a tournament he won years back. He was driving around the lake because it was real bad rain. He didn't want to run. He saw an area that just fit his eye. He went in there with a swim jig and a jig, and he won an Elite Series tournament. So that's just something that a guy or got close to it, whatever it was. I don't remember, but still just something a guy's got to do.
But it's kind of the same deal I was talking about with the reservoir. I'm not going to fish every single inch of every bay, on a lake like Minnetonka. I'm going to go fish a couple obvious shallow deals, a couple obvious deep deals, and see where that takes me. If I don't get any bites, I'm probably going to write that bay off. And if I do get some bites, it's going to be a place I'm going to look at in the tournament.
Good. Yep. Search baits. We got a BioVex topwater bait, a Rapala DT, a Bassman spinner bait, Outcast Tackle swim jig. I am by far, and this is something that I'm getting better at every single day, as being a search bait fisherman. I have to be. I have to get better at it. I got to move water, and I have to move it fast. Every bone in my body wants to be a flipper, dragger, spinning reel. I want to comb things. I want to finesse fish them. I want to flip them. I want to hit docks, something like that. But you just can't. And not only that, especially when you start getting to reservoirs, they're looking up a bunch of times too. So you got to give them something, but you really have to move water in practice. Find active fish. Let them tell you something.
Yeah.
With that, you guys do you revisit spots? Do you revisit if you caught them in practice? Do you go back to that spot?
Not in practice. I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make. They find a school of fish and they want to go check them the day before the tournament.
Never do that.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's say it doesn't matter how it works out. It's still going to end bad. You're either going to go there the day before, not get a bite, and then not go there at all, or you're going to go there the day before and catch like a 4-pounder that you burn for the tournament. If it's like a spot, you can tell in 5 minutes during the tournament whether that's productive water or not, and you can catch the fish when it counts rather than burning them in practice. And checking a place a day before a tournament, they might not be there, but the weather gets back to where maybe it was when you caught them there the first time in practice, and now they're there again. So I never double check anything in practice, but going back to search baits more, that's one thing growing up in Minnesota, it's a lot of pitching, worming, dragging stuff, fishing fairly slow, a lot of finesse stuff with a spinning rod. But the way I look at it, if you find a good area where there's a bunch of fish, one of them is going to be dumb enough to jump on a spinnerbait no matter what. I don't care if you're in a tournament, you end up catching every single fish on a drop shot or a whack and senko or something like that. If there's 20 fish there, one of them is going to be dumb enough to jump on a spinnerbait. or something moving fast.
Competition. They have to. The one's got to grab it quick for the other one.
That's all I need to see when I go through an area. I can cover water, something I'm winding the whole time. I don't want to sit there and drag a worm around or shake a drop shot forever trying to catch one in practice. That's just, you're wasting time. I feel like if you get around enough fish that you're going to do well in a tournament on, one of them's going to jump on something swimming remotely close to them.
Yep. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Again, too, I don't check spots. I don't go back. If 2 days ago I caught a 4-pounder, I'm going to fish there in the tournament anyway. Yeah. Most likely I'm going there. So why do I want to burn one? Or confidence. We have all the equipment in the world, man. We're extremely lucky to use a lot of awesome baits and equipment, rods and reels. But confidence is the best thing we got in the boat. And if you're going in there and you are confident that you're going to catch a bass, but if you went there the day before and you didn't get a bite, but 2 days ago you caught 2 4-pounders there, all of a sudden you're going in there like, oh man, the client ain't going to be in there, and you got a poopy diaper, and you're rolling in there, you just got a bad attitude, you know? So I don't burn them. Like he said earlier, I don't even want them to see my bait again. You know, I just don't. I'm probably going to fish there anyway. Yeah.
That even goes with spots from the past. Like, you know, a lot of guys that, you know, local guys that are fishing all their tournaments basically on one lake. You know, your best spot that's been good every year for 5 years, like there's no point in checking it. Yeah. You're going to go there anyways. Checking it, all you're going to do is burn fish that you might catch in the tournament.
Probably just
especially if they're small areas, you know in 5 minutes whether or not it's good.
A little bit on the search bait stuff is, for me, it's all about when you're actually using it. It's all about speeds with your reel, with your winding, and how fast you're going to retrieve it, and how fast your trolling motor's going, and then the water clarity. So just try and make it a little bit simple. The clearer the water, the faster you want to be going with your search bait. As clear as it gets is as fast as you can just about wind almost. Smallmouth and largemouth, they'll track it down and they'll eat it. And then with your trolling motor, you want to cover ground. So in that clear water, they're going to come from a long distance to eat it. They're going to be able to see it. So you can have your trolling motor on super high, and then you want to be winding fast. But as that water clarity gets down and you still want to use a search bait, you can still have your trolling motor reasonably high, but you need to be able to slow that retrieve down. So you want to be covering ground, but you don't want your lure to be burning through dirty water. So clear the water, the faster you can wind and the faster you can go, the dirtier water, you want to just slow everything down. And you can do that by dropping your reel ratio down, or really having to think about, I've got to wind slow. And I like to be able to, when I know it's cold or it's dirty, I drop my reel size down to 5 to 1 because it makes me wind slow. And I've had guys beat me at the back of the boat that I've got a 6.2 or a 7.2 to 1 reel, same lure, but they've got a 5.1, and it's just making them wind that little bit slower, and they're getting the bite. So that little rule just works for me.
Yeah. Here's one. I already have had a bunch of emails this morning on this question right here in practice. If we snatch them or if we pull on them. That sucks. Let me tell you what, I've spent more days in Florida pulling on them than I have actually catching them. And I don't even want to know what was pulling on the end of my bait when I decided just to shake them free.
Yeah. I set the hook.
I do too. I do.
But I'm not a big shake-off guy. I'm going to catch that one, and I'm just going to pick up my trolling motor. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I don't want to go in there, catch them, and then shake that one off, shake that one off, shake that one off. Like I said, you're showing them fish your bait. And a lot of times you can't shake a fish off. You just accidentally end up catching them. I'm just going to get the heck out of there and not even fish there anymore. So I'll go in, and first one that bites, I'm jacking them. Yeah. Then after that, I'm just probably going to leave. Yeah. I'm not big on shaking fish off. If I got to shake fish off, I don't need to be there. Yeah. That's the way I look at it.
Depending on what we're doing, I might pull on them when I was talking about like a mat. You know, if I want mats blow around on lakes. So sometimes the bottom might not just be right for them fish to be in there. But I'm not too worried about sticking a fish at all. You know, number one, I caught Randall Tharp 7-pounder the day after he did, and it got weighed showed around everywhere. Really, there's a lot of really good fishermen that make their living off of strictly released fish every time they hit the water. They will bite again. They have to eat again. I'm not overly concerned about sticking them is going to burn that particular fish, nor do I really necessarily think I'm going to catch that particular fish again. If there's one 4-pounder, there's a bunch of 4-pounders in there. Or hopefully there's a bunch of 4-pounders in there. But as far as burning, no, I don't. I'm with Feider on that deal. As soon as I start getting some bites, I'm happy with that, and I get out of the area. But if I did hit a couple, confidence again is my best friend. I want to know I'm not pulling on a couple 12-inch bass, that I hit a 4 or 5 pounder, and I'm like, good. Now I might keep setting hooks. I might not leave until all of a sudden I find a little bit of quality that I'm looking for. Maybe I'm starting to get bit by it. You know, they're not keepers. Maybe, if you're getting the bump board, like, oh, crap, this one goes 14, you know, and all that. And then, but all of a sudden you want to catch that 4-pounder, you're like, good. You know, if he's here, there's more here.
Yeah. I think it's all a confidence thing, and it's totally all in the situation, the lake you're at. You know, you could be on, what's a good example? Like somewhere where super tough, Red River or something now, where like bites, like if you get a bite, it's a big deal. That's when you probably want to just shake a bite off. But then you're on Toledo Bend, you want to hit everything that bites your lure to see if it's the right size, it's the right school. At Travis this year, I caught 100 bass every day of practice, and like 3 of them were keepers. And I just swung on everything and just hoping to find a keeper, and just that's just what you got to do. So sometimes you got to swing on them, sometimes you don't. It's just, but I think swinging on them is nothing wrong with that. Shaking them off, I don't think works. I've talked to all the guys that are at the top of the game, and they've never shaken a bass off in their life. They just swing on everything that gives them confidence. Chris Lane wrote an article this year. He said that he shook a bunch of fish off, and he's having a really tough year, and he shook fish off in an event. And then when it come to actually setting the hook, like maybe his setup or his hook or the way he had it wasn't the right deal, and the fish were getting off. You know, so for me, like jig fishing especially, I want to know that jig, they're eating it good. When I'm setting the hook, that jig's locked in, they're not going to throw it, and then that gives you confidence that every fish I swing, be it frog or anything, they're going to get in the boat. But if you haven't swung on a frog fish for 5 days, 3 days of practice, and then it comes to the tournament and your setup's wrong, that can hurt you. You can get the bites and you don't put them in the boat. So setting a hook, I think, is a good thing. Gives you confidence. Make sure you got everything set up right.
That about wraps up the webinar. Collect the money. That's it. Hopefully it all worked well in our advice.
Yeah.
Hopefully we practiced what we preached, and we're getting paychecks at the end of the day.
A lot of it comes down to just, I mean, it's different for a one-day tournament, but when you're fishing multiple-day tournaments, a lot of it's adjustments kind of made on the fly. It's never going to be the same. Last tournament I had on Ross Barnett, I weighed every single fish the first day on a popper. The second day it was half popper, half swim jig, and the third day was all swim jig. So that just shows you, like, that's the same with practice. Maybe my practice day would have been the day I caught them all on a popper, and tournament day would have been the day I caught them all. If you're fishing a one-day tournament, all on a swim jig, keeping an open mind, really adjusting to what's going on, changing around. Like I said, it changes every single day. I don't care what lake you're on. Something's going to change. The wind's going to blow a little harder, or a little different direction, or sun's out, clouds out, anything like that. Keeping an open mind, not getting really locked down. The guys I see that seem to struggle the most, they get so locked down on what happened in practice that they're not willing to, you know what I mean? They got these 3 spots. They caught them there on a jig in practice, bunch of big ones. They won practice. They go to those 3 spots, throw their jig, and it doesn't work out. The guys that make the adjustments are the guys that end up having the most success in the sport, I think.
And adjusting fast, I suppose, too.
Yeah,
like
quick.
if you're thinking it, you should be already doing it straight away. Just that wind's blowing, it wasn't blowing the day before, and you're thinking that could be a reaction by going, just drop everything and go and do it. And you can come back, because you do have time. You don't think you got time, but it only takes one cast and your whole tournament changes. And every day I'm in the boat in a tournament, and when I was in the elites and FLW, I'm constantly saying to myself, I'm one decision away from changing my entire tournament. And we've all got hundreds of examples, but consistently my gut has always been that bull shoals and on jerkbait bite, and I was throwing it for 2 hours. It wasn't working. It got slick calm. It got hot. Fish were just starting to move up, but they weren't up yet. And I pulled my trolling motor up, and there was a little cut and it had some deeper trees right against the cut, and that wasn't my deal. I wasn't catching them flipping, hadn't caught them flipping. Everything in my power wanted me to just put the trial motor down and drive off to my next spot. And I was like, it's just there, just flip it. They might be there. Dropped it down, come out of the bay with nearly 18 pounds. I was like, man, that was that one decision. I was like, just thought about it and went, it's only going to take me 10 minutes. And second flip, big one, next minute, there's a totally new pattern going on. And at every tournament, everyone is doing something different. They're all casting some different color, fishing a different way. And so you just got to do what you're confident with and what you enjoy doing. That's a big thing, is not trying to fish other people's techniques and other people's water and what you're hearing. Do what you love to do and what you think you're good at, and it'll happen.
That's what I was going to touch on before we got to questions is, we talk about information and stuff. Well, there's also a lot of information online, past tournaments and stuff. I like to know weights, not so much what they did. I listen to it, I look at it, but yeah, remember, everyone else sees it too. So if it's a biffle bug is what they're doing on Fort Gibson, well, everybody's throwing a biffle bug too. Don't be afraid to show up to these places with your strengths. What is your strengths? And make sure you have your 3-4 favorite baits on the deck, the ones that you go to all the time on the deck, no matter what. Even if in practice it didn't, because guess what? Sometimes you got to pull the, oh crap, nothing's working, and pick up the bait that you have the most success with, that you have the most confidence in, and just go and do it. And be rewarded. We good? Questions? So let me see if I'm down here real quick so I can get to the questions.
You got one still? You got a question?
No, Josh answered it.
Got it.
I got
Cool.
a question.
Yep.
You guys talk about preparation and weather patterns and stuff. You guys big lunar watchers like most of you guys do, and the moon phases and stuff like
This
that.
time of year, I definitely am. Because
I'm
of
big
spawn.
on full moon, new moon for as far as spawn goes, but like the muskie guys are more into like moon rise, moon set, stuff like that. I don't pay attention to that just because we get our set 8 hours. You know what I mean? Moon sets at 6 p.m. at night. That doesn't. Then we got 8 hours. Those are 8 hours for fishing. It doesn't matter. And I don't think bass are. I feel like they feed more frequently than a muskie does, where they don't get as locked down on moon rise, moon set. But full moon, new moon for spawning fish for sure. And bluegill bedfish. Bluegill always spawn on the full moon. Always.
I like it. I watch it all and see the peak fight times, like on your almanac. And mainly reason is I think bass do peak at those bite times, the same as all fish, but I want to make sure that I'm not running in that little gap. So I'll look and it'll say there's a peak bite time at 11 and there's a peak bite time at 3, and I'll just make sure I'm fishing my good stuff at that time. But like bass aren't as big on it, but like in Australia and like probably muskie, I didn't know that they're like that, but our fish there are like clockwork on it. Like it's like we're about to get bit here in the next 5 minutes, and then just like bang, 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 and then it's like over. And bass do the same thing, but just not as heavy. But I just make sure with those moon phases, as far solely like on the full moon and new moon and all that, whether they go shallow. But there's those little peak bite times, and you'll get 2 usually in a session. And I'm always making sure I'm fishing on those peak bite times.
Another thing with the moon too, sometime middle of summer, fish will eat more at night when full moons are going on and stuff like that. You get big moons. Tidal reservoirs, I know this probably doesn't relate to a lot of people here, but I found out it worked out for me at the James River, but there was like a full moon on top of a big tide, and then I had a super moon. I don't know. But nothing was right all day long. It was off, so I guess there's some stuff to look. But one thing I do like to look at is especially after practice, is what the pressure did. High pressure and low pressure is a big one to me, especially if I'm working reaction baits. I have noticed that, no doubt about it, low pressure systems, when they come in, fish are just jumping baits, and they're hitting on it. So I might not be so into, okay, but it's a great time for fish to show you where they're living and all that, but I might not hang my hat that crankbait, spinnerbait's going to be my deal. So yeah. I got to get Bree. Bree? I'm going to share that. I want to get to our questions.
You guys keep like a data or log at all? Like, what the wind was here, dimension pressure was here. I was on this day. I mean, do you keep any kind of record or journal during the course of the day? Kind of like, all right, I might 2.5 days of practice is over. I'm gonna go back to like my journal entries and see what patterns are really on, or is it just all the time?
I wish I did. I wish I did. I
time for
no, not enough hours in the day to do it, but I do try. You know, I've tried it before, but yeah, you know, every now and then I'm like my Lawrence. I might leave a note on a waypoint, you know, something specific if there's something that I want to know. But as a general thumb, man, I don't know. It'd be a lot of notebooks.
It's just
Like,
too much. The variables are just, there's too many, and there's just so many. Like the chances of going back to that spot, that lake, at that time of year, that water temperature, with that weather, is, and it being the same, is nearly impossible. So like at the start, everyone was like, you need to keep this and that, but now it's like, I just fish. You got to fish what's in front of you. You got to be like, it's cloudy. They want to see this. They want, you know, that's how you got to be, because like if we all did that, we'd have our trucks would be full of sheets of paper. It'd be nuts. There's just too much information to try and process. So you've got to simplify it a little bit and just fish the conditions. It's probably the best way to put it.
Yep.
You camera a lot or no?
Camera, like underwater camera.
I'm anti-camera.
Anti-camera.
I don't like it.
I never had a ton of success doing it myself. I can remember them days back with the Brants, and we had a black sheet over us. We tried to look at everything. I couldn't tell if it was a 12-inch bass or a 5-pounder. I didn't know what was going on looking at them, but I don't even want to know. But
I don't think we're allowed to anymore. Like not even fish for
Well,
practice.
I feel like fish that bite, there's a lot of fish that don't bite. And fish that bite, you know, let's say this is a rock pile. The fish that bites sits right here. And then 3/4 of his day, he swims out here. And these are the fish you see on your camera that you can never get to bite. You drop down your camera down, there's 4-pounders everywhere. You go in there tournament, you don't catch anything. But there's 2 4-pounders on this rock pile, and they bite. I just feel like cameras show you a lot of fish that aren't really needed. I don't know. I just feel like you're better off fishing than using a camera. I just know a lot of guys that, like, especially for the Denny's and stuff, every time we talk to them, they're like, you know, there's 54 pounders. I saw them on camera, and then they come in at the weigh-in and they had 20. That's for 8 fish limit. They have 20 pounds. They're like, what happened? Well, I don't know. I couldn't catch any of them. It's like,
yeah,
I went to where that 1 4-pounder bit my jig, and I caught a bunch of them. And you went to where you saw 54 pounders on your camera, and you didn't catch any of them. So, in my eyes, when fish are feeding, they sit on different stuff than when they're resting. And I think you see a lot of resting fish on the camera that it doesn't matter if there's 100 of them or they're not eating.
And like I said, confidence is my best friend out on the water. And nothing will make you feel like a bad fisherman more than live bait or a camera.
Yeah,
You can see just how many bass are actually
live bait's terrible.
down there.
That's why all the guides do like really terrible in tournaments. Because if you drug, like say Minnetonka, if you drug a leech down the weed line, you would catch a 4-pounder every 10 feet.
But that doesn't mean
that
you're
fish ain't
giving
eating.
him
That's
what
the
he
resting
eats.
fish you saw on the camera. He's not eating. The same deal with the guides. They go out fishing with their guide clients, pulling leeches and suckers down the weed lines. They catch 1,000,000 4-pounders. They show up for the tournament, and they got to throw plastic worms there where they're catching them on leeches, and they come with 10 pounds. And that happens every single time. So
One thing I'm going to do, guys,
live
real
bait and
quick.
camera's the same.
I got Bree here. I'm just going to finish this real quick, and then so I can also see our online questions. For past webinars, you can always go to my website, Josh Douglas Fishing. We got a YouTube page. You can go on there and check out any of these past webinars. This one will be up there. And then presentation courtesy of the Fisherman's Widow. That's Bree Douglas. That's my wife. She is seriously the brains around this operation. We were joking on the way here that if she just left me today, this would be not a good deal. We would, yeah, she just showed up, so we were all right. And then real quick, a big thank you to Thorn Brothers, where we are all at here. This was awesome. We got a big crowd. Why don't you shine the camera back, show everybody who's here. We had a big crowd here. Say hi, guys. Thorn Brothers has got a lot of good deals for all you guys in-house, and for anybody that is viewing online, if you're looking at getting into some Daiwa rod and reel combos, whatever you want for the next 24 hours using the code Daiwa20 at thornbrothers.com, we'll get you guys a 20% discount. All right, I just need your help getting so I can see the deals on this deal. I know. You can probably text out now and go to the regular. That's fine. Now where's the question?
Oh, I do gotta say hi to somebody quick.
On here?
Yep.
All right. Here we go, Feider. We got a bunch of them. Oh, boy. All right. We do. All right, Feider.
I was trying to find him too.
Can I just check, does everybody have a raffle ticket before we?
I do have to say hi to the NGTA bass anglers in Canada. Hey,
What up, buds?
we're Skyping later.
Let's
You
go
ready?
for a rip, buds. All right. Who's got a question here before we get to the online ones? Somebody had a question?
Josh, I was just gonna say, like with the whole camera deal, I mean, it's only good for those people looking for structure that can't read their electronics early on, right? Like you're looking for those rock piles before the weeds come up.
Maybe.
The
yeah.
good thing about the camera is, like, if you drive over it with your 2D or your down scan and you see some lumpy stuff or some fish and you want to know, are they walleyes, are they bass, are they muskies, that's where I see the best benefit for a camera. But to just straight up drive around with a camera for 2 days looking for fish, I don't find it beneficial. But just for clarification on what you're seeing on your electronics, it is nice.
Anyone else here got a question?
Do you see a lot of the smallmouth that are on your sander when you like it relaxing that and you're dropping to them? Do you see a lot of those fish, or are you looking for just the raw?
Like in that one tournament, probably like 25% of the fish I caught I could see on the graph. The other 75% was just
It's
the
just
rock.
nothing, just the rock, and then you catch.
Well, they sit so like the rock and the bottom comes so tight, and they sit right there. You can't actually see them on your tube.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
You're talking about your time that you actually hit the fish is 8 hours. So will they have a bell or a gunshot or something? You get to leave and
Blast off, yeah.
then you got to come back?
At a certain time, depending on what your order was going out.
So what time does your day normally start?
Sun up to 8 hours generally. Is the first flight will have to be back 8 hours from the time they took off. Second, third, fourth, it staggers, so you could get up to 10-hour day maybe. Something like that.
In the
You could
opens, there's almost a 10-hour day if your last flight. But
just depends on how you're doing it.
typically you're
FLW,
at 8-9
like,
hours.
it's dang near
20
shotgun
minutes and 160
are gone in the FLW. In the opens, it was like if you were late, you could be there 45, 50 minutes before you got to the end of your flight. But they do boat check. FLW does boat check before you even get in. So.
Any of you guys ever look your boat and take off?
Ever what?
Your boat and take off?
Okay. No.
I hooked mine once on a takeoff. Well, I guess the takeoff was like 10 miles down the lake.
All right. How much of practice is fishing versus drafting when you do decide to start or stop
Depend
casting
a
on a
lot
spot?
on the time of year.
Yeah.
Like if it's spring or I think the fish are shallow, I'm pretty much only fishing. Whereas if you go to like Kentucky Lake in June, you're probably going to spend 98% of your practice drafting. So I guess that has a little.
Yeah, even Mille Lacs. A lot of guys like to fish Mille Lacs. I honestly don't fish waypoints when I go to Mille Lacs. I mean, if I'm in halfway through a guide trip and it ain't going well, I'll start running some dots. But I love just getting out, even when I'm fun fishing, finding fish, just finding them.
Yeah.
That's my deal. That's what I love to do. I love catching them. Don't get me wrong, but it's more rewarding when you find a new spot and you start catching those fish. A lot of these are redundant. Anybody else here got any questions?
Is there?
So the St. Jude tournament, obviously on the river, super high this past weekend. I mean, how much time do you actually spend fishing the main river when the water's that high? Do you try to fish that 8 hours? You're gonna probably burn out your trolling motor batteries.
Yeah, it's hard to get batteries to last 8 hours on the main river, but what happened this week with the Jude, like I went down practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for it. First day of practice, it was still pretty cold. Current fishing was really good. Caught some nice smallies on the main river, whatnot. Thursday, it was okay at best. Friday, it was non-existent. And then, Friday about noon, I pulled into some slack water stuff and started to see some fish spawning. So it happens that quick where, you know, if you went and practiced the weekend before for that tournament, you're done. Yeah. I mean, all those fish were on current seams and stuff like that. And by the time the tournament rolled around, they were pretty much all, I mean, everybody did good. I think was fishing for spawning fish or fish right around the spawn. But there's times a year when they're on that main current all day. You know, if it was the water was 5-6 degrees colder, it'd have been a current bite, and yeah, you'd have burned your batteries to nothing by the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, when you're fishing like a little local team stuff, it doesn't matter. You can really kind of like have your motor running and one guy casting and stuff like that. But like Elite and FLW, they're so cut and dry on the rules where, you know, if that was the case, the guy would probably be done by, you know, noon, 1 o'clock. You'd be stuck to fishing, you know, slack water stuff at that point. But, you know, if the current bite's really on at that point, you're gonna do your damage in the first few hours anyhow. But yeah, you'll definitely burn the batteries up like nothing. Find any good ones in there?
Yeah, Chris Plank wants to know if the brown ones are going to be chewing this weekend on Mille Lacs.
I'd assume so.
I won't be there.
There are gonna be a lot of boats up there, but it'd be a good day to catch like an 8-pounder probably. Big fat one hasn't spawned yet.
Here's a question. What bait would you recommend for sparse grass with the bottom 1 foot of water being heavy grass in 60-degree water? Bottom 1 foot.
How deep are we?
I don't know. Maybe a drop shot be all right. Cranking over lip, bottom 1 foot. Yeah, it all depends, I guess, on how deep we are.
Swim bait.
Yeah, swim bait. Speedworm might be a player.
Okay.
Let's see. Niles is asking how the beer tastes from Excelsior Brewing Company, guys. That's the owner. How does it taste, guys? Heck yeah.
Doctor
Thank
approved?
you. Great. Oh, there it is. Do any of you knowingly fish an area during a tournament where they release fish from previous tournaments?
During a tournament?
Yeah.
For sure. If you cannot catch a bass your entire practice, go to the boat ramp.
Sometimes sometimes even
Fail
if you
safe.
can.
If you've been out 3 days and haven't caught a fish, go to the boat ramp.
There are always fish around the boat ramp where the weigh-ins
It's
are.
nearly impossible to win on retreads, but you can definitely cash a check.
I think the biggest one is current and river fish with current are the #1 players for it, because they take them out in the river, they drop them off, there's current. The first thing they do is swim to the bank and get in behind a piece of structure. So one, you can target them, they're in the depth you can catch them at, and river fish are just hungry, so they just bite. And I learned that the hard way. Arkansas River, when I made the year that I made the elites, I was scratching and clawing trying to get a limit, and guys were catching 40 and 50 fish of release fish, just smashing them 15 pounds a day, because thousands of fish got just dropped off, like bang right there, and those fish went to the bank and they bit. So, but Beaver Lake is a big one for it. You know, it's a huge lake, and continually tournaments go out of that Prairie Creek, and there's just the most fish in the whole lake are in that one area. So you throw a little Ned rig or something that's super finesse and get them to bite. It's a pretty good game plan. If you did,
Jigworm, bud.
you jigworm.
Jigworm.
You're Minnesota.
Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna do 3 more online questions, and if anyone else here has a question, then we're gonna give away some prizes. Let me do these 3 ones here first, so we can go off a line. This is a good question. I like this. Can you talk a little bit about during pre-fish how with your oh, I just lost it. Sorry. Can you talk a little bit about how, or during pre-fish, basically how do you decide where to start and when and where to move? We'll talk about the gut with when and where to move, but how do you, what do you guys like for a starting spot? How do you dictate that? I mean, that's a big deal. Your starting spot's a big deal. Maybe.
During tournament day
Yep.
or practice?
Yep. During tournament
tournament
day. You want to know
I'm
how do you assess where you want to start?
Depends on what's going on, where you're at, but I mean, typically I want to start on my best stuff from practice, but you know, we go places where there's a shad spawn or something. You better be doing that first hour of the morning, even if you ain't really been on it.
top water bite,
Oh.
buzzbait bite, something in the morning, opportunity time to put an early 4 in the boat.
Yeah. Or like a local tournament, I'll just kind of get a milk run. You know, if you got 40 good spots, I'm just gonna, you know, start closest, just make a big loop out of them. You know, rather than I don't know if any one would be better than the other if you got a bunch, but a lot of variables in that question.
I think the best thing I can tell you about going to a spot in the tournament, and I've learned this over the last couple of years. Jeff Creed taught me it. He said, go to your best stuff that you've got first. Don't pull up 10 yards short, 10 meters short. Don't lead up to it and work up towards it. Go to it and get right on it, because on the elites and on FLW or any tournament, if there's a tree and you think you can catch a bass on it, go to that tree and try and catch that bass, because if you pull up short, I guarantee you someone's going to pull up in there and catch it in front of you. Or it's happened to me multiple times where I've had a big school even in a little cut or a creek, but I've had something where I thought I could catch numbers, and I've pulled up the numbers spot, hasn't worked, and my deal was this. And when I've got there's been a boat on it, and then they're sitting in the top 10, and you're like, that was my stuff. Go to your juice first, and don't pull up short or go past it or work way to it. Go right there.
I can tell you, fishing the Denny's and local stuff here, we give each other a ton of space, a ton of respect out on the water. It's a home style tournament. You know, I've fished against him for a long time. I might even I see him on a spot. I don't go there and challenge him on a spot. I might not even fish it all year just because that's Feider's spot. We respect each other for that and give each other the same. But I can promise you, when $5 grand's on the line, I'm not here because you're there. I'm there because I caught fish there. They move in tight, super tight. So you definitely want to establish yourself on stuff. And a lot of times I'll use that first day of the tournament. I try to hit as much stuff as I can too, just to see what's actually good now. Now I'm sticking some fish. I want to get something going. What's good? You know, what do I really got here, and establish myself in those areas. So.
Yeah. Especially multiple day tournaments.
Yeah.
You know, say you start on your best stuff, you catch a big bag. I'm gonna go hit everywhere else I found in practice. Even if I just come in there and kind of fish halfway off the side, make a few casts, just to let it know that, you know, who's ever sitting there when I get there, like, I found these fish too. If my stuff doesn't go that good from day one, on day two, I found these fish too. Just, you know, make your presence known.
We actually got an A-rig question. Rich says that the A-rig, he knows, is illegal in most tournaments, but do you use it in practice much? We still can't. It's, I mean, I suppose you could in pre-practice. Let me tell you something about the A-rig. The A-rig got big because it caught fish that nobody knew how to catch from before. When we used to grind out shaky heads for 12 pounds, won you that tournament in the dirtiest time of the year, like November, in some reservoir somewhere. Then all of a sudden an A-rig, a school of shad, that's what they eat. So you can start targeting that fish. That's not a fish you can necessarily duplicate catch anyway. So we can't use it at all, basically at all. Practice is out of the question, and no, I don't really throw. I honestly don't know if I own A-rig anymore. Maybe one or two. I probably got one or two.
If you can throw it, you probably should be throwing it. If you're allowed to throw it in a tournament, there's nothing that can beat it. I spent nearly 3 years mastering it when it first came out and first got word, because literally you just couldn't compete without it. And I got really good at it to where, like, it wasn't just a chuck and wind deal for me. I really knew how to fish it and what baits to throw and where. And then now I don't even own one, so it kind of sucks. But I was enjoying throwing them. They work. You can lighten them up and throw them around docks, throw it like a spinnerbait, throw it deep. Great way to just take someone out and catch them a bunch of fish, but unfortunately we can't use them anymore. It's kind of a good and a bad thing, because it was taking out so many other techniques. You were just having one or two rods on your deck, and everything else was...
I literally spent my first year of the Opens, didn't know nothing about it. Paul Elias just blew it up. I'm like, that ain't my deal. I got my butt kicked like every single tournament because I didn't throw it and I wasn't good at throwing it. Then right when I got good at throwing it, they banned it. So now it's kind of all out of there. But one more on here. All right. So just wondering, say you have a horrible practice and nothing works, you'll probably get a check. Generally how that goes. do you pick your favorite confidence bait and just roll with it, or do you go still trying to put together a pattern tournament day? I do a little bit of both, actually.
I think every good fisherman, when they like don't get bit on what should be working or preconceived notions or whatever, they all go back to their confidence technique, whatever it is, spinnerbait, crankbait, flipping, finessing. Yeah, if you're not getting bit, do what you do best and fish what looks, the most like home to you. So
Carl actually taught me Gunnersville this year. Gunnersville is like Mille Lacs of Alabama. It's awesome, right? Well, this year we were there under like the worst conditions ever, and it was miserable fishing, horrible. And something Carl was taught and he passed down to me. You're down there and you're thinking, okay, I got to throw a swim bait and a lipless crankbait and stuff like that to catch fish. Well, at a certain point, when you ain't getting bit, you just got to resort back to getting bites, period. You need to catch some fish. So if that's a shaky head on the bridge, if that's whatever it takes for you to get bit, downsizing, do whatever you got to do to start getting some bites for sure. Yeah. I just stole your taught me. All right, guys. We're good here. Any more questions? So
I was wondering, so if you already got 5 on your best, how long do you stay there? Do you keep banging it out? If it's a multiple day tournament, that's what I'm trying to get at.
If they're 5 good ones, I'd probably leave. Depending on where you're at, what defines a good one. Some places 2-pounder, some places 4-pounder. If I have 5 good ones, I put it this way: I don't want to cull out or I don't want to catch 3 1/4 just to cull up to a 3 1/2. You know what I mean? If I go there and I catch say 3-pounders a good one, catch 5 fish over 3 pounds, I'm gone.
Here's a curveball for that question. What if there's someone else that knows about your spot? Are you going to protect your spot?
There's plenty of guys that know the spots generally, and you just can't worry. One thing you can't do is worry about what other people are going to do.
It's kind of
you against the fish, man. Yeah.
The only way you can guarantee, same deal, with deer hunting, letting little deer go past you. The only way you can guarantee that deer dies is if you shoot. In your head, you're oh, he's going to walk on a neighbor's property, you're going to kill him, but that doesn't always work out. Same deal when you're fishing. The only way you can guarantee that fish gets caught is if you catch him. Some other guy might think he knows the spot, pull on there, make cast 20 yards off to the wrong side, not get a bite, and they're all still right there.
You're actually better off not seeing it. Just get out of there and never look at it again and come back with the same confidence that you had when you were catching them. But the most heavenly thing that can ever happen is catching 5 big ones off an area and having 6 hours to explore the lake and fish.
I just go the new stuff.
All my biggest bags that I've ever weighed in have come from having a giant bag and then fishing other stuff and turning it into just a monster. I've got a bit of a deal where I try and think about that I've got a huge bag in my live well already when I'm fishing, even though I've got nothing. I try and pretend that I've got 15 pounds. Because if you don't fish like that, every time I look, I'm at Gunnersville, I threw out 22 pounds and put in nearly 27. And the only way I did that was because I had 22 pounds. I wouldn't have caught that 27 pound, not even looked like it, because I slowed down and I saw what was happening, and I fished slow and I fished just natural, and that's how the big bags come. So keep in your mind, when you start fishing fast, that's when everything goes to water. So.
Yeah, and looking at what your bag is too. I mean, if he said they're all 3-pounders and 15 pounds is a good sack there, then you're looking good. But say at Chickamauga for that open, I had a 25 pounds in the box and still had a 3-pounder. On Chickamauga, I could really upgrade that massive bag to a mega bag. So it just kind of depends on what you got. But to be able to put 5 good ones in the box and then go and continue practicing, go check your other stuff, and saving fish is a good feeling to have. Because you can burn a hole. There's no doubt about it. You can burn them up. You can sit there and burn them up or just condition those fish, move them. The fishy schools, they follow the boat. They disperse different, and they can just get the pressure and leave. And that's why you generally see we show up at a body of water and the bite's good, and it tightens up every single day. That fishery starts getting tougher and tougher and tougher because 200 boats makes it fish tough in a quick hurry. They see a lot of baits coming through. Anybody else? That it? Let's give away some prizes.
Let's do it.